Hi, and welcome back to On the Edge. I'm your host, Lauren Deal. Thanks for joining us today as we feature another happiness hero, working to make our community a better place. Adam Zern joins us again to share some insight into Lancaster's surprising history and update us on his various adventures. We give you more information on how you can give back to the Lancaster community with our 717-411. Now please enjoy this episode's Happiness Hero.
Well, hello, I am Lindsay, and I am really excited to be here today. I find it strange to be in this opportunity, given 2 years ago, I would have never have thought that this would be where I would be being able to help people in this situation. My son was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes a little over 2 years ago. And prior to the diagnosis, my husband and I were just living pretty typical life with our two kids, having the normal dreams and aspirations that you would expect to have. And then our world just kind of turned upside down. And fortunately, with some background knowledge in the healthcare industry, I was able to notice signs and symptoms of type 1 diabetes with our son, Will. At the time, he was only 3 years old. So I have a lot to discuss about those types of things for awareness for people to look for in their children and themselves. Also, kind of what you can do after the fact, after you've passed the grieving and the shock and feeling very helpless and fearful. So a lot of really cool things happened for us, and a lot of realizations of what we're capable of and what our son is. So first and foremost, I am in the position I am today because my son is a complete warrior, and every other type 1 child that I have met, parents I have talked to, and type 1 diabetics themselves, they're powerful. They just they go through it and they live with it. And a lot of them make a lot of themselves because of it. It strengthens them as people and individuals. So like I was saying, I'll tell you the kind of the beginning. We noticed that our son, Will, he was 3, and he was strangely potty trained at a very early age of 2. So at 3, he started wetting the bed, excessive urination. It wasn't little accidents. It was big ones. And then thirst and urination were Will's biggest signs. Other signs are weight loss, lethargic, just being tired. I've also learned that being grumpy, moodiness comes along with diabetes as well. So for Will, with the excessive urination, it was a couple weeks. And what I've learned is the symptoms can occur for a couple weeks, but not much longer before it gets to the dangerous stage. So type 1 diabetes basically it's an autoimmune disorder. There's also type 2 diabetes that is more lifestyle. So when you hear the word diabetes, which many of us hear all the time, it is extremely I feel like it's taken lightly. We hear the word in commercials and grandma has diabetes and this and that, but when it actually comes into your life and it is in front of you, you then realize just how meticulous you have to be with the condition. So the pancreas basically is destroyed by the immune system in type 1. The immune system sees the beta cells in the pancreas that secrete insulin as foreign, and it attacks the beta cells. So the beta cells no longer produce insulin. In type 2, you still will produce insulin, but the cell formation has changed. So it's hard for the insulin to get into the cells that are needed. So with type 1, unfortunately, it's just gone. So you then, after diagnosis, become your own pancreas.
Have you created routines? What was it like when you first experienced this? What were the warning signs beyond the thirst and stuff that made you think, wait, this is not normal? Because Will was your second child, correct?
Yeah, I mean, it really came down to the excessive thirst and the excessive urination that really hit us and made us go to the doctor. And when we went to the doctor, they took the urine sample, and immediately when the doctor walked into the room, his face, who typically is a doctor who is smiley and happy, he walked in the room and immediately I knew, and the tears just started falling, and they did not stop falling for about 2 to 3 days. So
Yeah.
what happens with the diagnosis is you go, you get checked, and once it's confirmed, you will go right to the hospital. And we were fortunate to find it early. Some people actually can go into DKA, which is when the sugars get so high. It's a it's diabetic coma, really, where the blood sugars get so high, and then you start having organ failure, kidney failure, um, and you're on. Some people are in a coma for a while until you get to the hospital and they start treating you with insulin, and you come back out.
My question also is for the people who are listening to this, and this sounds just like their child, or this sounds like I'm experiencing some of these symptoms as well, and you're a little nervous to move forward. I'm imagining you, as like you explained, that there were a lot of hurdles that you overcame, and you rose to the occasion and went right to the top, my dear, which is amazing. What advice would you give to someone who's thinking, I need to start taking care of my health? What's step one?
Well, step one without a diagnosis is to get away from the fear of finding out the truth. I mean, no one wants to hear bad news. No one wants to be right in their thought that maybe they have something. But some of the stuff that we are so scared of can be fixed with the treatment. So number one, I would say go to the doctor. Even if you're doubtful that you're right, just go get checked for the peace of mind. If you're great and good to go and you don't have anything wrong with you, then you can just enjoy your life and feel better until the next physical comes along. But go to the doctor, get checked. Be self-aware too. I think we know our bodies, and we let fear overcome. In the dental field, I'm a dental hygienist as well, and I have so many patients that just are so fearful of finding out what's wrong with their teeth, or scared to get the treatment done, that the worst case scenario happens when you waste time and you don't get checked.
Yeah.
I would say with anyone living or caring for a child with diabetes, it is hard. It is tiring. It's scary. I love to tell people I'm here for you, and we can bounce stories off of each other. But if you're newly diagnosed, I love to tell people you will be okay. Life will be okay. The dreams and vision that we had for our life prior to diagnosis, we thought were wiped away. We thought they were gone. I could tell you this could be a whole other segment of what we thought, but life is good, and Will is going to get to do everything that he wants to do. He's wrestling, he plays with his friends. He's 5 and extremely independent. He goes down the street and plays with the neighbors because we trust the technology. But these little diabetic kids, they're self-aware. They are responsible, and they take over. And one day we won't have to be doing what we do for Will now. But as a mom, I think I'll probably always be calling him when he's like, 50. What are you doing, buddy?
Regardless of
what are you doing? But it becomes a part of you. And I've met so many people in the community of the type 1 community. I'm now volunteering for JDRF. If you see the banner in the background, we were able to raise lots of money for JDRF. There's a lot of people in the community, but in the beginning you feel alone, but you don't have to feel alone. And we also realize how many friends and family just love you and support you, and people care. People are good. People are really good. And I would say make yourself important. If you are curious, if you have anything, or if you have it, tackle it, because all this technology out there and all these scientists researching every day are making better things. One day, and hopefully there's a cure, I mean, that's what we're really fighting for. Hopefully there's a cure.
A big thanks to this episode's Happiness Hero. Now, next up, we hear from Adam Zern, who is back with Uncharted Lancaster to share his adventures from all over Lancaster County.
Hi, Lauren. Thanks for having me. It's great to be back. Today, I have a tale of the macabre for you, and it is the worst accident that ever occurred here in Lancaster County. Happened on June 9th, 1906 in Conestoga Township.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, now let's dig in. Adam, tell us about it.
All right. Well, in order to really fully understand why and where, we're going to have to go back in time 3 years to 1903 and the building of the Enola Low Grade. Now, today it's a popular hiking, biking, running destination, but it's a almost 29-mile stretch of basically perfectly level ground, and it goes from Acklen all the way to Cresswell. Now, back in the day, it went west of Harrisburg, but today that's kind of the main stretch there. And this was back in the day when my grandfather said, the railroad had more money than they knew what to do with. And so they decided to build basically a freight bypass line to alleviate traffic off of the passenger freight line, off of the passenger lines, and create this bypass. And so the goal of this ambitious project was basically have a grade that's no more or less than 1 degree. And I walk it all the time, and I've walked different segments. When you get done, you ask your watch, like it tells you how far you went and how many steps and the elevation change. And my watch typically says 0, 0 elevation change. And I've gone 3-4, miles there on it. Now, in addition to that, they, no more of a curve than 3 degrees anywhere along the entire route. And so if they got to a mountain, they just blasted their way through it. And the deepest area is 120 feet deep from like where the top of the hill to where the tracks actually are. And if they came to a valley, they just filled it in with the debris that they had blasted out. And so a project like this required, literally tons and tons of dynamite. I mean, just working on the Enola Low Grade was really dangerous. The job claimed over 200 lives of men. Most of them died in horrible dynamite accidents. Just again, this is pre any kind of OSHA safety laws. And, guys were, killed in premature explosions or just too close to the explosion site or just from flying debris. I've seen some photos where there's just a line of men on a hill and they're just passing box of dynamite to box of dynamite, just going up the hill so they can pack in these explosions or explosives. So one of the companies that got a contract to build all of this dynamite was here in Conestoga Township, really close to the Enola Low Grade in Shanks, what is today Shanks Ferry Nature Preserve. And, one of the things you have to know about dynamite factories back then is typically you only use the building for 1 to 2 years because the entire time you're packing all this dynamite, explosive powders are settling in the floors and settling in the walls. And the longer you're using that building, the higher the probability of an accidental explosion. And it wouldn't take much. I mean, this is an age when everyone smoked, cigars and cigarettes and pipes. Fun fact about cigars, they're often referred to as stogies because we had a cigar factory here in Conestoga, and that's kind of where that nickname as stogie was born from, Conestoga stogie. So, that's where that came from. So, you're in an age where lots of guys are smoking, or even just a static electricity shock would be enough in a building like that to set off the dynamite.
Well, the risk factor of these men and maybe women who are coming into this place of work, they must have known the risk as they were doing this job.
It was, absolutely. It was good pay, and there just isn't a lot of jobs nearby. And so this was somewhere to work. And there were women working there. They didn't necessarily work in the punch house, but the site employed about 40 people. And I think like about a dozen of them were women. And from what I've read, I'm not really sure exactly what all their jobs were, but there was probably some secretarial work and some things like that they were engaged in. And so, they're producing all of this dynamite for the Enola Low Grade project, this unbelievably massive engineering project. In today's money, it would have cost $500 million to build this this rail line. And the crazy thing is it stopped operation in 1989. So it's not even in use today. And I think like every time I walk there on this rail trail, I'm like, wow, this costs $500 million for me to go on a hike with my dogs, which is kind of crazy.
I didn't realize the longevity of how long it lasted though.
Yeah, so about, I think, 86 years from like, it opened in 1906 and the last freight train ran in 1989. So, here we are. The factory's well over 2 years because it's been producing dynamite for the Enola low grade all along. And, the workers had written management and said, it's been a while. We should be building a new building here for the dynamite. And whether they're just pinching pennies or maybe mail service was slow back then like it is today, I don't know, but it just never happened. So then on June 9th, 1906 at 12:42, the worst possible thing happens and the dynamite accidentally goes off. And it is horrific. So instantly this pressure wave flies out from the epicenter of the explosion. And people as far as 1.5 miles away report having their windows broken, plates falling off of shelves, and even a barn being dislodged from its foundation.
Oh my gosh.
Just a massive pressure wave. So that, it's 2,500 pounds of dynamite. A few seconds after that is the sound wave, and that just goes out 15 miles. And so, as far south as Maryland, people well across the county line in York and towns, far north in Lancaster report hearing this massive, massive explosion. And of course, the worst of it is the men right there at the epicenter of the explosion. And so 11 men are killed, and they're more or less just vaporized. Another 9 are injured in the explosion. A few minutes later, the nearby glycerin house explodes, adding more just destruction and everything. And there's a photo, and you can see they have a few days before, and there's trees and there's the buildings, and then they have a picture from the day after. And it is, again, all the trees are flattened. There's no buildings left. It just, again, this horrible, horrible accident. So they immediately halt work on the Enola low grade, and they bring a lot of the workers in and on what is basically a recovery operation. And there is an article in the newspaper of an employee on this recovery mission, and he compares it to picking chestnuts. These the body parts that they're finding, and they're finding them 300 yards away, and they're in trees, and it's just this horrible, gruesome, grisly sight. So 2 days later, they, have a mass funeral at Colemanville United Methodist Church. It's about 2 miles away. And of the 11 men, only one is identified. He had a scar on his arm, and they found a piece of that. And, this predates any kind of DNA testing. And so, they just kind of gathered up all the bits and pieces and put them in a box. And, you can go to the cemetery today, and there's a large tombstone there, this mass grave, commemorating, this horrible accident. And you can see where they're buried. But just this horrible, horrible accident. And, you can still visit the location today. There's a plaque out in the middle of the woods that, commemorates what happened. And, in this, now it's just forest, but just this, amazing thing that happened, and, worst accident in Lancaster County history.
Oh my goodness. Yes, that definitely wins that award.
It does. Terrible stuff. People can actually go, if they want to see the site, they can visit it on the Bosman Hollow Adventure, and it's one of the stops along the way. You get to go out in the woods and, and find the plaque out there, and, you can still see a stone foundation, what was most likely from one of the buildings that used to be there. And last summer, I went out there on the day of the anniversary and just kind of, thought about this, that horrible event and the tragic life that was lost there. And, in that moment, just when, companies were putting profits in front of, people, in this, modernization effort to build these grand railroads and other major projects.
Oh my goodness. Well, I think this is such a fascinating piece of Lancaster's history, and to be able to go and walk and see where these people worked and the sacrifice that they made, just to pay like homage to what they did. It'd be really neat for you and your family to get out there and just walk the trail and check it out. So any other information you can give to us, Adam, as to how we can get there, we'll put up your link at the bottom of the screen here to go check out unchartedlancaster.com and not only check out this adventure, but some other adventures that Adam has to offer. Adam, we're so happy that you joined us today, and we're looking forward to the next episode we have with you because there are more adventures to come.
Thanks, Lauren. It was great to be here. I'll talk to you later.
All right. See you soon. Thanks to Adam for sharing his adventures with everyone. Next, we have our 717-411, where we try to focus on supporting a community member who's doing wonderful things in the area. Hi, welcome back. We have Kate here joining us from the Pet Pantry. And who is with you today, Kate?
Well, this is Kudos, and he's a male. He's neutered, vaccinated, and microchipped, and ready to be adopted. I believe he's a little bit older. I don't have the exact age on him, but very sweet.
Oh, well, hello. Welcome to the show. And Kate, you have some fun facts to tell us about, the Pet Pantry, but mostly let's talk about how COVID has specifically affected rescue organizations and the Pet Pantry specifically.
Yes, yeah, a lot of people don't realize how COVID really impacted the rescue world, even just the veterinarian world. Back when things shut down in March to about middle of April, spay and neuters were considered elective surgeries. And so therefore, there were a lot of especially cats that were not able to come in to be spayed and neutered. And that would have been through our trap and release program, that would have been owned animals, and that also would have been adoptable, cats that would have come in through a foster program. We really struggled to bring kittens in because we weren't sure when we were going to be able to spay and neuter them. So there was a real backlog, and it created a really long wait time for people to be able to resume getting their animals spayed and neutered.
He is fascinating. I'm curious to see where
he's gonna get up there.
This is live TV, my friends, and so we're following along to see what he's up to.
So yes, after spay and neuter surgeries were able to resume, and that would have been the middle of May, our rescue department had been working weeks even prior to that to really build our foster family program. So I think we went from about 20 consistent foster families. I think we had 50 to 60 families all summer working. It's nothing for our rescue to have 100 cats in our care at any one time. So when the public comes in, sometimes you'll see an empty cage and you'll think, well, are they working at capacity? But we are absolutely always working, if not above capacity, because we have to factor in all those kittens and cats that are in foster care.
If you wanted to become a foster care fur parent, how do you do that?
There is an application on our website, petpantrylc.org. You will find under volunteer opportunities. You can fill out the foster family application, you send it in, they review it, and then they will give you a call. And if they don't, certainly feel free to call us or email us. I know that they are always looking to find new foster families.
That's wonderful, especially because maybe you're trying to help the rescue organizations, but at the same time you're not able to do it full time. So
that, and I think for families who maybe can't commit to having animals in their home all the time, their own pets, this is sometimes a great way to, okay, you can have pets when you're not traveling, but when you want to go on vacation, you take a break and then you don't have foster kittens in your home during that time. It's sort of a nice, I know for retirees, it's kind of a nice opportunity.
Oh, that's great. So if you're watching this and you're thinking, I would love to have a little bit more life in my home, this would be a wonderful route for you.
Yeah.
Kate, how else has COVID affected your Pet Pantry specifically?
Well, with all those extra kittens, all of those extra foster families, part of our foster program is all of the supplies and medical care are provided for you. It's not out of a foster family's pocket. So it affected us in just the amount of supplies, medicine. Oftentimes kittens need antibiotics, they have upper respiratory infections, they have eye infections. So it's the medications, it's the food, it's the supplies, the litter. Certainly that has just required us to fundraise and do those supply drives, even harder to make sure that we have all the supplies on hand that we're going to need.
If our viewers are thinking, maybe I can't have a pet in my home, but I would love to support your cause, is there a way that they could donate specifically to you?
Absolutely. I do believe we do Amazon Smiles. Again, that you can find that information on our website. Also, we always take supplies and drop-offs at our facility on 26 Millersville Road. We take dog food, cat food, even if it's open, we will take it to part of our food program. Canned food, dry food treats, toys, dog beds, towels. We will even take gently used towels and bedding. Pretty much if you have a question as to if we want it, just give us a call or email us. I'm sure we can probably find use. I think we're kind of talented that way. We can find use for almost anything.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of On the Edge. If you know someone in our community who deserves to be featured on the show, please contact us by using this social media. I'm Lauren, and until next time, stay on the edge.